This is Tyler, your antisocial critic and the host of the AntiSocial Network, your number one source for anachronistic conversations online. Come join us each week to hear opinions from some of the best voices discussing entertainment, politics, religion, and modern life on the internet today, most of which you've never heard of, but I have. This week on Antisocial Politics, I'm joined by two regular guests of the Spergonomics Podcast, Alkazei and Chicago Liberal. They both have very disparate opinions on political issues, but they're both very entertaining, and they have very interesting opinions, and we shall now enjoy them.
Nobody and I bullied you guys for saying that Bernie had a chance.
He actually did have a chance.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
He really kind of did.
He did. Bernie just hired the wrong people because he's a fucking moron. He really did have a chance.
All right, I'm just gonna kind of lead us in, and then we can jump right into this because it seems like we're already going at it.
Okay. So.
All right.
Also, it's thundering where I am, so if you hear, I don't know.
It's okay. There's a tornado in Peoria, so there's a possibility that me and Nisin will be dead.
Oh,
in 2
there
hours.
is. Oh, that's sick. Let me see this.
I'm glad to see that my co-host is fearing for my safety.
Well, one of them is.
I'm not, dude. I want to see this tornado. This looks sick.
You know,
dude, hold on. Let me go on.
Midwest
People. All right, let me see this. There's gonna be live tweets about this shit. Let me see.
Do you mind if I just keep this in? This is gold.
Okay.
Anyway.
I'm sorry, dude. I'm a terrible person. My first reaction to when anything bad is going on is sick. Let me see it.
No, I'm a terrible person. I want to keep all this crap in for my benefit. So.
Hell yeah.
Oh fuck, dude. You see?
Anyway, this is Antisocial Politics. We're just kind of jumping in. We got. We're all members of the clandestine Ship of Geniuses group on Twitter, which I don't know if that's considered a secret society or not, but I think
it is. I've never told anybody about this group chat.
Mitch
was invited. Mitch was invited to it, but he immediately left. No, yes, because Scotch and him are like kind of buddies or whatever. So Scotch invited and added a few people, and Mitch is like, "What is this?" Scotch explained. He just immediately left because he didn't give a shit.
I don't know. I don't want to.
Really a secret society until Alex Jones blames you for some mass shooting.
Oh no!
Well, I could just commit one if he really wants it.
Okay,
I've got nothing to do.
Okay, which one of us would be the most likely to go postal? For being honest.
What do you mean by what does go postal mean?
You never heard that phrase? It's like going on a shooting spree and murdering people.
I'd probably go postal. Although I think Chicago has a good chance considering he's like a really retarded libertarian. I mean, honestly, the stupid shit you say makes me think you're gonna like shoot up an FBI building at some point.
Anyway,
no, dude, I'm a libertarian. I pay other people to do that.
So for anyone who's horribly confused by this conversation already, we are joined by Alkazei, who is Joe Biden's favorite sociopathic #1 fan, and Chicago Mesian, who is Mitch's second favorite tradcon. So.
Who's the favorite? It's you.
It's obviously Harian, or however his name is pronounced.
Harian Glaive?
Yeah, those two are like those two are fight.
I just call him Harry Pussy.
Mitch and Harian fight like an old married couple on Twitter like every single day.
Oh, dude, that's how I am with Mitch in Chicago and literally every single one of our friends that aren't on Globe Twitter. But even then, Globe Twitter people, I'm surprised I haven't been canceled by them yet, considering how many like racist and sexist jokes I post on my Twitter all the time. Dude, I literally, dude, there was a globalist shield poll, and like I was fighting against somebody with 2,000 followers, so I was obviously gonna lose. One of my mutuals, who's like a super lefty, black bisexual the daughter of African immigrants. She quote tweeted said, "I can't believe @Alkazei isn't winning." I was like, I know, but he has 2,000 followers. What can I do? People would rather vote for a degenerate simp than a proud woman hater like me. She literally said, "You're so hilarious, LMAO. I can't be canceled. I'm uncancelable."
That's because you transcended into like going full Southern Democrat on them.
Well, I'm not even Southern Democrat, dude.
I mean,
dude, I literally advocate for open borders, but I'm still
gosh.
racist.
I mean, isn't St. Louis technically farther south than Richmond?
Century.
What?
Isn't St. Louis technically farther south than Richmond? Because I know a bunch of like the lower cities in Illinois. They're technically farther south than the former capital of the Confederacy. Like if you go down to Mount Vernon or Cairo.
Let me look up the latitude of St. Louis.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm gonna look up the latitude of Richmond and St. Louis. So Richmond is 37 degrees north, and St. Louis is 38 degrees north. So Richmond is farther south.
Okay, you're like a degree off, but you know what I mean.
You were a degree off. I didn't make this claim.
Okay, that's fair. Now on to our sponsor, Goya Bean. No.
I thought you were gonna say Goyam. I was like, wait, what?
I mean, I did get into a fight yesterday on my burner account with a bunch of anti-Semites, so...
Well, hold on. I just looked it up. So I'm in a tornado warning right now, but you guys aren't when there's a fucking tornado in Peoria?
Hooray!
Wait, hold on. Tornado watch.
Illinois.
Lewis County. Tornado watch. 373 is in full effect until 9 p.m. for the following locations in Missouri. Oh, fuck. Why are you guys in a tornado warning? There's literally one in Peoria right now, you say.
Well, we're technically not. I mean, I haven't gotten any alerts or anything, so...
Well, I haven't gotten an alert either, because I turned off Amber Alerts, because they woke me up whenever I was sleeping.
Is it possible to turn off Amber Alerts? I thought that was, like, a permanent feature.
You can filter out stuff that isn't in your area, I think.
Oh, I was gonna say, what happens when, like, you're right next to the guy who's, like, kidnapping someone, and you just happen
Yeah,
to
if it's, like... Well, because, like, I was getting stuff from, like, St. Charles or whatever. It's like, dude, I live so far away from St. Charles. Yeah, like, we're technically in the same metro area, but I live 30 minutes south or whatever.
I mean,
so it's
everything outside of Chicago is part of Chicago, if you're in Illinois. If you're outside of Illinois, I should say. I mean, like, you can be in Bloomington, and everyone's like, oh, you live near Chicago, right?
Yeah, it's basically Chicago or Kentucky.
No, dude, it's so stupid.
That's all of Illinois.
It's like, oh, I live in Carbondale. Is that a Chicago suburb?
No. It's not.
Not even close. That's
I know, I'm
hours
joking.
south.
Carbondale is closer to the St. Louis metro area.
You're closer to Louisville.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Illinois is a huge state. At least lengthwise.
There's a town. There's a town in Illinois, in the South Illinois. I've always wanted to go to because there's a bunch of cool historic sites there, like Prairie de Roche. Like, there's a bunch of cool old French stuff around there.
Okay, I've never heard of it.
There's a town. It was founded by like French colonists in the 1700s. It's called Prairie de Roche. There's a French fort there. There's an old cabin. Some cool shit there.
I haven't had much inclination to go.
Ooh, I'm getting a scam call from New York. Let's see. Is that old Chinese dude? What?
您好，这里是 DHL 国际快递，您有高责未签收，查询请让。
I was right.
Oh my gosh. Somehow
what are we supposed to be doing again?
I don't know. We're supposed to be. Somehow this is worse than Spergonomics on a daily basis. Okay.
Well, this isn't my podcast, so I don't care about my conduct.
Well, yeah. Thank you for joining the final episode of the AntiSocial Network. We're going to be.
Thanks, everyone.
We're going to be engaging in suicide by N-bomb tonight. So.
Well, I'm not high, so I won't be. I'm not high. I won't be dropping any N-bombs tonight. I'm not high right now.
That would be a interesting idea, though, if some YouTubers like, you know what, I'm just going to retire. In 30 days, I'm going to say the N-word, and that's the end of it.
Would it be like that one Twitter account you counted down for 3.5 years from just saying the N-word?
Wait, they did that for 3.5 years?
No, he did it for like 8 days.
Oh.
No, he did it for much longer than 8 days.
Well, no,
dude, there was one dude who counted down 100. There was this one account that said 100 days to the mystery word, and he would just count down. So everybody thought he was gonna say the N-word, but he just said run. It was just like a picture of like Yandere Dev with the gun, and inverted coloring. Just said run.
Did he commit a school shooting or something? Because that sounds like the kind of thing you'd put on Facebook if you were like coinciding it with something.
Dude, it's Yandere Dev. Don't think too. It was a Yandere Dev me. Don't. It's not that deep.
I don't know.
If you want to see cursed pictures, look in the chat.
Oh my god, what chat?
I made this last night because I was bored.
Oh, dude,
our chat?
Speaking of doing stupid stuff while bored, I downloaded Pokemon Go again yesterday.
I'm sorry.
No, dude, it's great. I loved it. I just got bored of it because it took so long for them to add other Pokemon, but now they're on Gen 5 and it's great.
Okay.
Also, like, the park right next to my house, I think, is a fucking Croagunk nest. So I already have a Toxicroak, which is sick. I love Toxicroak.
Anyway, I was talking to Chicago Liberal a little before this, and he had some topic ideas that kind of were along the lines of what I was hoping to do, but ideally I like to make these episodes themed in some sense, just to have some sort of core to the kind of discussion. And obviously, apparently, I had written down at some point in my calendar that this week was supposed to be the Democratic National Convention, and at some point it got delayed till August 17th. So I messed up on that regard, but we were about a month out from that.
2 months ago. Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't paying attention. I must have written that back in like March or something in pen, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna not worry about and check the date on that. But
yeah, a friend of mine and I were planning to go down to Milwaukee to just watch the fireworks.
I know Stephen Michael Davis was talking about that, being like, yeah, I'm gonna go to the DNC.
Oh yeah, he was telling us about that on the Super Tuesday stream. Oh, that was sick. I love this hunt.
I never been in a riot before, but...
Well, I went to a BLM protest in downtown St. Louis, but it was underwhelming. There was just people being angry.
Yeah, it's kind of one or the other. It's either, like, a bunch of very boring people doing boring things, or it's, like, burning down.
Well, later that night, they burned down a 7-Eleven owned by a black guy, so it was like...
Oh, that's just...
But the thing is, I don't want to go to downtown past, like, 5, because, like, that's a death sentence.
Oh, gosh. I've only been to St. Louis once. I had a work trip down there where in my job before the Great Plague, I worked at a Navy warehouse, and they were like, hey, someone available to drive a camera down to St. Louis tonight? And I was like, sure, I'll do it. And I did. And I drove back there in the back of one day, and I only spent like maybe 15 minutes there, but it was after hours, so I probably was in danger.
Oh, where were you?
Right next to the arch. I had to drop it off at a hotel right next to it.
All right. What time?
Like 8 o'clock at night.
This is the worst private eye detective story.
Yeah, that was really dumb of you. That was really dangerous.
I mean, I was driving a truck and I had to just drop it off at the curb and leave, so it wasn't like I was hanging out.
Oh, okay. You didn't have to. Okay.
It was like, yeah, just drop it off at the back of the building and go as fast as possible. And I got home that night, like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh god, dude, if you, yeah, dude, was it past sundown?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean it was, and I ended up eating dinner at a Waffle House just east of St. Louis, just because I had nothing to, because I was
just east of St. Louis.
Yeah, I don't know if it wasn't in East St. Louis because I drove through some of the areas and I was like, yeah, I'm not stopping here, not stopping here. And then I got on the highway, found the first Waffle House, and I ate my dinner there, and then I took my mandatory driving break. So. Yeah,
it depends. Belleville's nice. So if you might have been in Belleville. I think there's a Waffle House there.
Yeah, it might be that one. I mean, it's whatever. It's one of those like off the highway kind of things where you get off and there's like department stores and restaurants and stuff like that. So it wasn't. Oh
yeah, probably O'Fallon maybe, because O'Fallon's starting to get bad now. I think.
Well, that was like a year and a half ago, so it wasn't that long ago.
Well, okay, it was still starting to get bad.
Anyway, what was Chicago Liberal? What was the? You said we should talk about the kind of the rise of populism in the Democratic Party in general,
and Republicans, because let's be honest, both of them suck.
Obviously, yeah. I mean,
obviously.
Yeah.
Is this the Populism is Gay squad?
Yes.
Base.
I mean, we don't have Scotch here, so there's no one to defend it.
Well, Scotch has a very utilitarian approach.
Whatever I want.
Well, the thing is, Scotch has a very utilitarian approach to populism. He's not like an ideological populist.
Oh no.
So he's basically a populist and a nerd.
Yeah. Well, he only sees populism because he doesn't like Canadian elites.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah, they're Canadians.
Yeah.
I mean, Canada doesn't really have any sort of anti-progressive culture that's capable of taking on their elites. So I could see him approaching the populist.
Well, the thing is, the problem with Canada's elites is that they're all from the St. Lawrence River Valley. Like, that's why Stephen Harper was a cool prime minister, because like he was from Western Canada, but like his seat was in Vancouver, so he didn't like give a shit what they thought. He just sort of did whatever he wanted.
There you go.
Keep in mind, when you're not in the St. Lawrence River Valley, there's like 5 other people in Canada.
Well, no, dude. I mean, Western Canada is its own weird thing.
Oh,
like
Vancouver, and then 5 other people.
Well, no, because the thing is, it's like in the prairie, in like Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. Like the Liberal Party has basically no presence there. The main left-wing rival party is actually the New Democratic Party. Like, that's it.
I like how Alberta in the 90s almost just joins the U.S.
That was funny. No, also in Vancouver, it's worse. There's only 2 viable parties. It's the NDP and it's the Liberals.
Oh, so it's Liberals and then other Liberals.
It's Liberals. It's Liberals versus Social Democrats.
And would that mean like kind of the AOC wing, or would that be?
It would be like Bernie Sanders AOC versus like Nancy Pelosi or Joe Biden, something like that. Basically, neoliberals versus social democrats.
Okay, I mean the social democrat label is kind of anachronistic, at least in terms of the way Americans use it. Like I know Kyle, what's his name?
Well, Kyle tried to use it properly for a while, but Bernie Sanders was being too retarded, so he's like, "All right, I give up." They're interchangeable at this point.
I mean, the labels just kind of have a tendency of running into each other regardless, so it's one of those things where you can't really... If you want to kind of go off on your own and do your own thing and call yourself something unique, you're eventually it's either going to...
Social democrat is just a democratic socialist with low time preference.
Well, no, I don't think they believe in worker-owned co-ops, I think.
I'm sure like a lot of the AOC types do believe in it to some degree, but I don't think it's not like the Vosh types who are like, oh, we have to like forcefully convert every single business into a worker co-op or else.
Well, I think mainly because social democracy mainly started out as a way to ease the transition into socialism. So at very first, it started on, instead of like focusing on trying to get worker-controlled means of production, it focused on strengthening unions, getting a large welfare state, and just regulating capitalism. But that model just ended up working for a lot of countries, just because like it provided enough wealth for the poor people, and it was still satisfying enough to like middle class and wealthy people that they could still increase their wealth and like gain a high standard of living, to the point where it just became the end goal, because people realized, oh, this is fine.
At least to a degree. I mean, I'm always a little bit dubious of large welfare programs in America, because we kind of have a crazy.
Well, yeah, I'm not a social democrat. I'm just saying that's how that worked out.
Yeah, I mean, you see, like even lighter Democrats tend to be more around the social network, the social welfare stuff. I mean, I would say an old school Republican in a sense, and so obviously I'm not 100% against all that stuff, but I do think that there's a lot of negatives to it, obviously.
Oh, or would you consider yourself like a neocon or a liberal conservative?
I would consider myself this kind of Republican, whatever that qualifies me as.
Okay, what are your opinions on Larry Hogan, John Kasich, and 41?
Larry Hogan, I'm not sure. Like I told you before, I'd actually briefly seen John Kasich in person. I thought he was kind of vanilla. It didn't really have much of a taste for him. And I like Bush 41. I think he's fine. I know a lot of people like absolutely despise him as like the betrayer of the Republican Party.
Because basically, if you really, really are into like very moderate conservative political thought, like Bush, like the first Bush, like John Kasich or Larry Hogan, or who's the governor of Massachusetts? He's a Republican right now. Charlie Baker, that's his name. Like if you're into those types, or even Mitt Romney, they largely believe in like a similar ideology, what's been come to be known as liberal conservatism, because like that's any center right party in Europe, that's basically what they are. That's what the Tories in the UK are. I think the Républicains in France, but I'm not sure about that one. The Liberal Party in Australia. it's basically their form of conservatism is just maintaining like a non-social democratic capitalist sort of democracy. That's what their brand and the center party in Sweden. So it's like that's what they mean by conservative in Europe.
Right.
Is this just sort of moderate on social issues, and but it can either be moderate in economic views or conservative in economic views. It's a very
I mean, there's a gradient to these kind of things, and I would say that my whatever brand of conservatism I'm personally a part of, it's mostly at a distance from like the paleocon side of the Republican Party. I'm not into that. I don't like the populist stuff of Trump, and I don't like a lot of that kind of corner of conservatism. I would say I'm a little closer to the National Review school in terms of my opinions being both moderately traditionalist but also fairly libertarian. I don't want massive authoritarian cultural control of the populace or anything like that.
Yeah, so here's what Wikipedia says. Liberal conservatism incorporates the classical liberal view of minimal government intervention in the economy, according to which individuals should be free to participate in the market and generate wealth without government interference. However, liberal conservatism also holds that individuals cannot be thoroughly depended on to act responsibly in other spheres of life. Therefore, liberal conservatives believe that a strong state is necessary to ensure law and order, and social institutions are needed to nurture a sense of duty and responsibility to the nation. They also support civil liberties along with some socially conservative positions. And
so
Europe
what you're
liberal
saying is
conservative.
they want a small state and they want a big state.
Well, it depends on the issue, I think. I mean, the thing about like the far ends of the right and the left is that you don't really see a lot of arguments for small state stuff. It's just it's big state in one aspect or big state in another aspect. Do you want social theocracy where a culture is very conservative and you give some amount of government control to institutionalizing religious values, or you get the economic state with the left, which is the government essentially has free reign to go into whatever aspect of the economy it wants, change something, spend as much money as it wants, and there's unless you're like a libertarian that's just kind of like all of that is bad, just no government anywhere. It really depends. I'd say
they generally reside on the smaller state side.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I'm pretty much a John W. Bricker old right conservative. The guy who called Robert Taft a socialist.
Based.
I mean, who was that guy that went into I remember I read Michael Malice's book a couple months ago, and he talks about there was a capitalist conference back in the 1960s, and it was some very some objectivist went into it, and he stormed out of the conference screaming at all these Republicans, "You're all socialists, all of you!" And he just stormed out and started his own school of capitalism or whatever. I don't remember exactly.
Oh, that was Murray Rothbard.
Right, yeah.
Oh god, dude, I do not like paleo libertarians.
Wait, how do you get? Okay, now I'm fascinated. How do you get a paleo libertarian? Because paleo libertarian
is pretty much just a ANCAP who's also super conservative socially.
Oh yeah, I've met that.
That's all it is.
I've got a couple of friends like that who's like, oh, you're the kind of libertarian who grows his beard out and talks about how the state has no legitimacy whatsoever and then asks for a theocracy. Okay.
Well, I mean,
you're basically Amish at that point.
Yeah. Well, I would consider myself a paleo-libertarian, but actually principled about it. I just don't like communists.
Ew.
Want them gone.
Paleo-libertarianism is cringe.
I don't think you have the right to call me cringe, Al.
Yes, I do. Just because I'm a Keynesian neoliberal social liberal does not mean I'm cringe.
You're right. You're worse.
Dude, I just want to bomb every single Middle Eastern country that we don't like. What's so wrong with that?
The bombing part, actually.
But the bombs look cool and they explode.
It's like what was it Ted Cruz said a couple years ago? I want to bomb the Middle East until the glass turns into sand turns to glass or something like that.
Fucking based, honestly. Look, dude, basically, I like the social policies of Obama, but the foreign policy of George W. Bush.
So basically, you are the absolute worst of both worlds.
Oh, damn right, baby. Dude, let's have another Iraq war. I think we need another.
We do need to send off our college students to get shot. There's too many of them nowadays.
Genocide the youth, that's what I say.
It's like that line from Thank You for Smoking. He's like, he joined the National Guard because he too wanted to shoot college students.
Hey man, at least now we won't have any more Bernie supporters.
Based.
We need another Vietnam thin out their ranks.
Kind of hard to vote for Bernie when you lose your legs in a helicopter crash.
Based.
So Alkazei.
So you want to go into more of my foreign policy now that I just said that?
I don't know. I might get banned off YouTube again. That wouldn't be good for my anything. I already don't have any listeners, so I'm gonna get further buried in the algorithm.
You're not on their radar yet, so I don't know.
Well, I did want to ask Alkazei. So, as someone who is of the neoliberal left, how do you think that Biden is going to serve the cause of pushing your version of liberalism into the mainstream? Because at the moment, I don't see any way that this election doesn't institutionalize the far left progressive types.
Well, for one, I think actually British Knight and Actual Justice Warrior said this in a stream the other day, that Joe Biden's just gonna pay like lip service to the progressives, but he's probably gonna like crush the anarchist types in the streets, but like the media won't be critical of them.
I don't know though, because a lot of the speculation I've heard is that what's gonna end up happening is his VP is gonna have a lot more outsized power over what the direction of the administration is gonna be. And
well, that's because Biden's, if he wins the election, he's just gonna be in power for like 2 months and then be removed from office due to health reasons, and then his VP, who's going to be woke as hell, is going to be president.
I mean, if it's Kamala Harris, she'll definitely like crush the anarchists because she's a fucking cop.
But she's so progressive on like every other issue, though. If she wins, it's going to cause a lot of problems.
Well, I don't think she likes Bernie Sanders or AOC that much. Like the only progressive she really got along with was like Andrew Yang, and Andrew Yang's not even that hardcore progressive.
No,
because
he's just an idiot on economics.
No, he's based on economics. Fuck off. I wanted it to be Amy Klobuchar, but because people found out she did her job properly 2 years ago or 12 years ago or something and didn't let off Derek Chauvin, she became a liability, so they scrap her. Right now, I'm rooting for Tammy Duckworth or Val Demings or I can get on board with Keisha Bottoms, but I don't really like Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris is so far the front runner.
Well, she's got the name
Stacey Abrams or Kamala
sure.
Harris because of their ethnicity.
Well, she does, but I think Tammy Duckworth would be a better pick from a strategic standpoint, because California is super lefty. They'll vote. You could fucking paint a raccoon blue and it'll win.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is obviously it's going to be the racial stuff that's going to end up happening because obviously with everything that's happened, they need to pick a woman of color.
Yeah.
And
Tammy Duckworth is Chinese and Thai, I think.
She's Thai, and that's. Here's the thing, though.
I don't know if she's ethnically Thai because her mom was Chinese. I mean, yeah, her mom was a Chinese person living in Thailand. I don't know if she was.
I don't know if that would send the message they want to send right now, though, because right now that I think their goal is
keep in mind that BLM actually thinks that Asian people are even more privileged than white people. So no, Tammy Duckworth can't be picked because she's Asian.
Well, she is a veteran and lost both of her legs.
But she's Asian, so she's privileged.
Well, no, dude, Tammy Duckworth would be the best because she's from the Midwest, even though Illinois is a safe Dem state. She's from the Midwest. She's a fucking veteran. She's a mother. Well, for one, she was injured in combat, so people have an aura around, or an automatic aura of respect, as they should, around somebody who lost their limbs in combat. She's also kind of moderate, I think. I'm pretty sure she's like the moderate Dem.
She'd be a sensible pick, but that's why I don't think they're gonna pick her.
She also has absolutely no charisma at all.
Well, I don't care about that.
You have to, because this is how elections work.
They have to go with the they have to go with a woke woman. They have to pick someone who's gonna be inflammatory and call Mike Pence a white supremacist on the debate stage.
Oh, that'll be funny.
They have to do someone who can actually walk with marchers.
Well, I also like Val Demings, but she was a former police chief, so I don't know how that's gonna go.
Like I said, it's gonna be Stacey Abrams.
No, dude, it's not gonna be Stacey Abrams. Dude, she was shut down hard. She was shut down hard live on MSNBC. Like Joe Biden said, I have an announcement on MSNBC, and Stacey Abrams is gonna be there. And she fucking thought she was gonna be announced VP, but Biden did some other bullshit. And then you could see her face just frown, just turn to this gloomy, depressing thing. It was hilarious.
So that's a relief, because just if knowing they.
Oh yeah, dude, they shut down her hard a long time ago, mainly because she was campaigning so hard.
Well, she lost by 55,000 votes in her state, and she's been going on 2 years now, claiming that she's lost unfairly
because of voter fraud. Well, I don't have. Is there evidence of voter fraud?
The only her claim isn't voter fraud. It's that it was voter suppression, meaning that they were supposedly the previous Republican governor had gone out of his way to make it harder for black people in the state of Georgia to vote. And the evidence she cites is that a bunch of voting places in black areas got shut down, and a bunch of rolls got purged by him of people that weren't eligible to vote anymore. And the second one is procedural, and it's what you're supposed to do to make sure people who aren't eligible to vote can't vote. And the first one is dictated by volunteers, so if there's no one who's going to run voting places, you can't do it. So it's not like there was ever some concentrated effort to keep black people out of voting. It's just circumstantial. And she held it up as like, oh, it's clearly the Republicans don't want black people to vote because they know that they would lose if they let us. And that's not what happened. You're just making the accusation, and she's been writing that accusation for almost 2 years now, and clearly she thought she could use it to propel herself into the vice presidential position, or at least some other. She was shut down
hard, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
that was hilarious when it happened.
Did you see that? Did you see that one, Joe?
No, because I tend to just not really care about what the Democrats do anymore.
Oh. Well, it was so funny though to watch that. Huge taxes. Well, although the polling about Texas recently, I find that hilarious.
Well, yeah, we were talking about that in the group a couple weeks ago. How they're basically.
Well, yeah, because I put it in.
Well, yeah, basically they're becoming purple, but at the same time the northern states are becoming more red, which that's honestly that's a bit of a relief just to know that, because obviously.
Yeah, because I also put that thing that a Democratic strategist wrote. I forget his name.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're talking about. I mean, because obviously, if Michigan or Wisconsin go red again, that effectively is going to suggest that those states, or even Pennsylvania, if those go red again, that's essentially demarcating those states as like new red states going forward.
Well, I think Ohio and Iowa are essentially just red states at this point. But the thing is, because like if the Republicans lose Texas, that's like bad news. So Biden doesn't even have to like campaign there that much. He can probably spend a few ad money, but he's not going to waste his time there because it's such a risky maneuver.
I mean, Texas has probably become a purple state and then maybe a blue state in like 40 years. I don't think they'd become like a blue state immediately.
Yeah, but what the Biden campaign is probably going to do is that they're probably going to campaign like a little bit. They might do a rally there. They'll put a few ads there just to scare the Republicans enough to divert a lot of their resources into retaining Texas. So Biden can either focus on regaining the Rust Belt or picking up states like Arizona. And
it's weird watching Arizona go blue. I mean, I guess it makes
sense. Well, I think we've all just conceded. Even Trump has that Arizona is probably just going to go blue at this point.
That's so weird though. I mean, I've always considered that to be one of the redder states outside of Phoenix. I mean, maybe my perception of it's wrong.
People in Arizona just never really pay attention.
Yeah. Also, there's been a lot of Hispanic immigration, and the Democrats have been successful at getting those Hispanics to register to vote and to vote themselves. Because, like, in 2018, they did pretty good in the midterms there. And Trump only lost by 3 points in Arizona last time. And on top of that, since Arizona is pretty much dominated by the Phoenix suburbs, to my knowledge, I guess Tucson and Flagstaff maybe have a say, but I wouldn't put too much emphasis on them. And there's lots of polling coming out that's saying Trump is losing support among suburban white women. And if you're losing in a state that's pretty much only the suburbs of Phoenix, well, you're fucked.
I remember Ted Cruz was actually saying that's why the Texas is starting to go purple. It's because they're losing all the suburban white women outside of the major cities.
I think it was Frank Lutz that said in 2018, after the midterms, when the Republicans got blown out in the House, is that he noticed a pattern. They lost in Northern Virginia, the D.C. suburbs. They lost the suburbs of Dallas, of Denver, of Chicago, of just basically a bunch of major cities. And the Republicans were like, shit, this is part of our main base. Like, we cannot lose these people. And they are.
I remember back in like the 2016 election, there was all those progressives who were going off on Twitter being like, look at all the white women who have betrayed us.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen any of those? I mean...
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, they're convinced that white women are the devil, and they're like, this is the betrayer class.
But even then, it was only 53%. That could easily be swayed, and it's being swayed right now.
Yeah.
So, like, the polling coming out about suburban white women, I think that's what's gonna kill Trump, is just losing the suburban white women vote.
Potentially. I mean, I could see a lot of them going for Biden. I mean, at this, I know you're convinced that Biden's gonna win, but at this point, I'm more or less in the.
Well, I'm not. Win. I mean, I think it's more likely for him at this point, but like, it's still 4 months away from the election. Something. Well,
yeah. I'm still in the what the heck is going to happen in the next 4 months school of the thought, because I'm like, okay, what is August's weird thing that's going to happen going to be?
Yeah, because like, well, right now, Asians. Well, right now, Biden's in a stronger position than Hillary was, because the Economist put out their model that said like Biden has an 83% chance. At the same time, Hillary only had a 65% chance. And then it continually decreased from there. But so Biden is already starting at a stronger position from the outset, which is not good for Trump.
No.
Because like, even if he bleeds support a little bit, he can still pull it off. And also, Biden's just a far more likable person than Hillary.
Well, potentially, yeah.
Not on guns.
Well, I don't think he's gonna bother to do much with the guns, honestly, especially with all the buying that's happened in the last 2 months. I mean, at this point, how many of the new, like, I heard that there was like 40% of all the guns in the past 2 months that were bought by first-time sellers, and there's record sales happening ever since the rioting started.
Oh yeah. In fact, Arkansas had 136% increases in gun sales.
Base, dude.
There's no way in heck the Democrats can use that as an issue going forward. At least not if they're smart, because that's like one of their worst losing
I don't think
issues.
Biden's gonna push the gun issue.
I mean, that's always been one of the left's worst losing issues, is that there's a very small group of very vociferous gun support people on the left, and they keep trying to push it off, and every single time it just sends people out in the streets like, you ain't taking my guns. You're not taking my freaking guns, guys. Some freaking second.
No, there's plenty of gun lovers on the left. So.
Oh, I know. That's the thing. Like,
I'm one of them.
It's a bipartisan issue. It's one of those things where you can fudge the statistics and say, oh, everyone supports moderate levels of gun control, but then when you start actually going into it and being like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do this, it all becomes arbitrary and everyone starts hating it. And so there's really no way you can actually put the Orwellian stuff they want, that the gun control, the serious gun control advocates want to do, onto the table and win the United States.
Well, basically, if the Democrats just become Joe Manchin on the gun issue, they'll probably start winning elections more and more.
Where's the Martin O'Malley's?
Let me buy an Abrams, for God's sake.
Would you consider voting for the Democrats, Joe, if they started supporting guns?
If they started supporting the entirety of the Second Amendment, which means me being allowed to buy a warship, sure.
Okay, I don't think you should be allowed to buy a warship.
I mean, technically,
Why?
James Madison defended the right of citizens to buy naval cannons, so...
Hell yeah. I want to buy a 16-inch gun.
I mean, technically, it was meant in the context of merchant ships, so he wasn't necessarily saying, oh, put a naval cannon on your front lawn, but...
Fine,
in theory,
I'll go buy a Liberty ship and put a naval cannon on it.
I'm gonna put naval
Dude,
ship in
just
my
let me
backyard.
buy into M1 Abrams, okay? If America's not going to invade Iraq, I'll do it myself.
Do it. It'll be $10 million.
No, you're gonna take it. You need a killdozer that's impossible to take out. Just drive that.
Well,
thing.
yeah,
Operation
I'll get a few
Freedom.
buddies of mine. I'll be in the M1 Abrams. They'll be in the killdozers. We're gonna overthrow Bashar al-Assad.
Me and the boys taking down Baghdad.
Me and the boys starting a coup in Syria.
Oh my gosh.
Although there are rumors that he was gonna step down recently, but I don't know if they're true.
Assad.
Yeah.
The fact that those rumors have been circulating for over a month means that they're not.
Well, no, I mean a bunch of Turkish outlets started reporting it, and I was. Let me check.
Yeah, Turkish outlets.
Who knows?
I don't see the Turks as very good arbiters of what is true and what isn't.
Why do we
Whatever.
want them to join NATO again?
Well, I mean, I think we should try to reestablish the relationship with Turkey, because I don't want to kick them out of NATO because their strategic position's too important. We just have to put a shit ton of pressure on them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the full list of all the crap they've pulled in the past few years, but
back to Greece. Boom.
But
Now we
although
can
what
talk
would
about
be
NATO.
based, I think we should expand NATO. Georgia needs to become a member. Colombia needs to become a member. We need.
Why
We
the
need.
hell
To,
do you want Colombia in it?
well, Colombia wants to join us like really badly.
Yeah, but aren't they also pretty much just a massive drug cartel?
Not anymore, really. They
I
really
thought
put
they
that
still had
situation under
serious problems
control.
with that.
It's a much more stable country. It's becoming wealthier. It's becoming more stable. Yeah, I don't see why not. Dude, honestly, Latin America and NATO. Mexico should join NATO. Let's go.
Let's go in first. Have them, police their fucking borders.
get Russia to join NATO while we're at it.
Well, I'm open borders, so I don't care.
You actually, funny thing, Russia tried to join NATO twice. Once under Stalin and once under Putin.
What the?
Yeah, Stalin tried to join NATO in 1949
Why?
to go and help in containing the Germans.
I thought
Well-
NATO was a post. Oh, wait, okay. NATO happened after the Second World War. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh wait, so
Well,
he
keep in
joined NATO
mind
because he
that-
wanted to have an anti-German coalition?
Keep in mind that one of the original aspects of NATO was keeping the Germans down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, at that point, we had.
It was keep America ill. I forget who said it, but it was a Secretary of State who said it. He said, "The goal of NATO is to keep the Americans in, the Germans down, and the Russians out."
I mean, we still occupy Germany to some degree, so.
Yeah, we still have that
The
massive base.
occupation of Germany only ended in 1999, by the way.
The what?
The occupation of Germany only ended in 1999. That
Dang
was when
right.
the last Russian units left Berlin.
Oh fuck.
They were still there.
They still
throughout
had
all of
Russians in
Yeltsin's
Eastern
presidency.
Germany in the late 90s?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Well, yeah, well that doesn't surprise me because of the Warsaw Pact.
Well,
The
yeah,
Warsaw
but.
Pact was dissolved in 1990.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean.
Well, it dissolved in 1990, but I can't imagine why they would have troops there for a decade after that.
Well, yeah, that seems weird because at that point, the first expansion of NATO was happening, wasn't it?
I mean,
Well,
Soviet Union lost a lot of its ability to fund stuff in the early 90s, so I can't imagine that he would
yeah,
keep
to
a.
the point that Ukraine, for a short period, had more nuclear weapons than Russia did.
Hold on. Let me go here. Past enlargements. Let's see. Central and Eastern Europe. Central European countries push for NATO enlargement, driven primarily by Russia's domestically. Oh, also, didn't Boris Yeltsin try to join NATO?
Yeah, and Putin.
Yeah. Because I think the first expansion was in the was in the late 90s, then it was the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The idea of.
And the third expansion is right now. It's still going on, I guess, because Montenegro just joined. Not Montenegro, sorry. Macedonia just joined this year, which is based. We have the Serbs completely surrounded.
They can't start any more world
Good, we
wars.
just finished what we started.
We should go in and invade Serbia, install democracy, occupy it.
Hey
for 50
Al,
years.
now I know what you should do with your private Mick Abrams tank.
Oh yes, dude. Overthrow Slobodan Milosevic, even though he's not in power anymore. He
Even
hasn't
though
been
he's
for like 20
like
years.
dead.
I'm just gonna kill him anyway for good measure.
Just drive up to his house with a tank, take him out. Victory!
Well, I mean, if he's dead, I'm gonna piss in his grave. Yeah, he's dead.
Just playing into your raped version of Yankee Doodle.
Yeah, he died in 2006. I'm gonna go piss on his grave.
You could drive the Abrams tank over his grave and desecrate it. That's one way to handle it.
I guess.
No, we have to do that to Karl Marx's grave first and month.
And just to mock them, I'll play Serb Strong.
No, play Bosnian propaganda music.
Oh, okay.
You know when we invaded Panama in the late 80s, they surrounded the what's his name's the capital, and the way they managed to convince them to surrender was that they took a bunch of loudspeakers out and started blaring the song Panama on repeat until they came out.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What song was it?
Panama.
What's the song called?
I think it's called
Panama.
Yeah.
Panama by Van Halen?
I think so. Don't play it on the stream. So. I can't afford a copyright strike.
Well, hold on. I'm gonna look the Wikipedia article. Cause I need to fucking see this shit. Hold on.
I wish there was. I hope there's a History Channel documentary about that, because that'd just be the most sarcastic thing ever.
Well, I mean, the History Channel has documentaries with Hitler working with aliens. They better have this. Some actual history.
I miss the Hitler Network from the 90s.
The Hitler Network.
That's what they called it, because it was nothing but World War II documentaries back in the day. Now it's like nothing but reality shows.
But it wasn't doing some weird form of simping for like Hitler. I swear.
I mean, Styx Hexenhammer claimed that
the alt-right band.
Styx Hexenhammer claimed that the fact that the History Channel was nothing but Hitler documentaries was what made him briefly turn into a Holocaust denier. So.
Oh yeah, dude, Safeguard. Yeah, he used to be a Holocaust denier, didn't he?
Yeah, he used to be. He also used to be a Satanist, so he has had a lot of interesting opinions.
Because I saw a clip of him on like Miles Per Hour's channel of like him denying the Holocaust. I'm like, what the fuck, Styx?
He's since gone back on that, but every once in a while he'll like allude to it and be really sore about it. Like, I used to do it, but
can't anymore. My mom said I couldn't.
Now he's freaking doing that podcast with some like far right guy. I don't remember his name. Who was that?
Yeah, I don't really like Styx. He's kind of annoying.
He's one of the more tolerable libertarian types out there.
Well, no libertarian is tolerable.
Okay, I see your perspective.
Except for Stephen Michael Davis, but only because of his foreign policy views.
What is his foreign policy views?
He's basically a neocon, I think.
I'm surprised that you don't like my views of hippity-hoppity physically remove the left.
Well, no, I would like you more if you just had a better foreign policy views.
My foreign policy views is we should have nuclear weapons, and every time someone threatens us, we just fucking nuke them.
I mean,
Where's
what about
MacArthur when we
what
need
about
him?
Coalition building?
Basically, be a
Russian
more
influence.
insane version of Nixon with nukes.
What about building coalitions, alliances to push back against influence of Sino-Russian influence? I don't know.
Sino-Russian influence. Simple. We nuked Moscow and Beijing. Now they don't have influence.
But
MacArthur said back during the Korean War that we needed to nuke China before it became more of a problem. So.
Well, that's because his version of fighting war is how I would do it, which is total war.
Dude, we need to get Ukraine and NATO. We need to get Ukraine and NATO right fucking now.
Oh man, I'm surprised we hadn't admitted them yet. At least I know that obviously there was the whole thing last year where Trump was like twisting their arm and nearly got him impeached. But I was surprised they weren't already a NATO country as of now.
Well, yeah, Sweden has always flirted with the idea of joining NATO, but they never do.
Sweden doesn't have any reason to do any sort of military work.
NATO, one issue with Ukraine joining NATO is that half their military simps the SS.
I mean, I did post that thing in the link a couple of weeks ago of the anti-gypsy propaganda in Ukraine. Did you remember that? It was like some anime girl saying, "Can you believe that, senpai, that the gypsies commit 90% of all the crime when they only represent 30%?
Oh, in Hungary?
Oh, was it Hungary? Oh, yeah.
It was in Hungary. It was a bus stop in Hungary.
If you told me it was Ukraine, I would have believed that too, but...
Well, you're retarded and you don't know how to distinguish between European languages, unlike me.
All the Eastern Bloc countries are just one country to me. I'm sorry. I'm an American. I don't believe in other countries. It's a myth.
Anything beyond Milwaukee has not been proven to exist.
I don't know, man. I just drove halfway to Indiana yesterday. I think that there's something out there.
I define outer space as anything that's 30 miles outside of the United States.
Dude, honestly,
flat Earth theory for
south of the Merrimack River has yet to be proven.
It's the flat Earth theory of geopolitics, and everything outside of America is a myth at best.
No, dude, dude. Anything south of the Mason-Dixon line, it's a little sketchy.
Oh man, that's
actually Venus.
Anything south of the Merrimack River has not yet been proven to exist.
NASCAR, myth. NBA, myth.
Do people live on this other side of the Ohio River?
Nah.
Okay, quote Robert E.
Supposedly, I'm going college south of the Ohio River, but I don't know.
It's just a bunch of statues.
I've been to the town. I'm just not.
It's just a whole bunch of statues down south. There's no people.
They're all Confederate statues.
We don't call them people, so.
It's all Robert E. Lee statues. That's about as much as we know.
So let's go to the movie Bob Ruth. It's like, well, I would call them people, but that would be acknowledging them as people, so.
Alright, dude.
Face.
Dude, you know what? You know what we need? Alright, how about we need to expand NATO? We need Japan and NATO right now.
They're not in the North Atlantic.
Yes, Japan, one of the major powers of the North Atlantic.
Look, well, here's the thing. We just change it to the every ocean treaty organization.
How about China? Let's add China to NATO.
No.
They found the one country it doesn't want in NATO.
No. Okay, here's what I want in NATO. I want Georgia, Ukraine, Sweden, Ireland, Switzerland, and Austria if we can convince them.
That's
well,
right.
That's probably
the
not going to
man
happen.
who destroyed the Third Reich was a Confederate.
What?
Stop.
Oh, yeah.
Georgia.
Oh, yeah. Colombia, I want Japan, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand.
South Korea.
Yeah.
Let's get Philippines.
Dude, you think I'm joking? Unironically, just fuck the North Atlantic part. Just North everything.
Just put. I'm gonna add Australia and Indonesia to NATO.
I mean,
Australia is an honorary Northern Hemisphere nation.
Yeah. They are. They're white. They get the pass.
Wasn't there that joke in like the newsroom or something where they decided like, the Northern Hemisphere is too chauvinistic, so we're gonna flip the maps upside down so that Southern Hemisphere countries have a greater sense of self-worth. And they're like, this is stupid. Does anyone even live in the Southern Hemisphere?
Australians. Everyone else.
I met a dude from Australia, but I'm pretty sure he was just British, but didn't learn how to speak until he was 5.
Australians and British people are pretty sore about each other. I mean, you don't want to mix them up in polite company.
Well, dude, some of the accents sound so similar. Like some actual Australian accents sound pretty close to British.
I mean, the British people. There's like 20 separate accents in Britain, and they can tell you them like in great detail how they're all different. So they get really mad if you start like mixing them up.
I'm sorry, people from dude, everybody from Belfast to London sounds the same to me. And yes, I'm trying to deliberately piss off British people. How can you tell?
And that was the last time he ever appeared on Spergonomics.
Oh yeah, because he's from Manchester.
And he was never heard from again.
Oh my gosh. Weren't we supposed to talk about something?
Populism.
Oh, fuck.
Which we talked about for like 2 minutes.
Yeah,
populism is gay. I think that's all. We all agree on that.
Pretty much.
I mean, I guess we could talk about it. Okay. I mean, well, my main criticism of populism is that it promotes too simplistic of a worldview.
That's fair. I mean, obviously, I don't like the impulses that it dredges up in the population. Like,
well, yeah, because the thing is, left-wing populism and right-wing populism are so like, the only difference is that right-wing populism tends to be racist.
Well,
left-wing populists are like, okay, well the right is
populism is also racist, just against white people.
Well, I would say left-wing populism is oikophobic. It's the opposite of xenophobic. So they just irrationally hate everything about themselves and their national identity. They just...
My thing is it's like left-wing populists hate all elites, while right-wing populists just hate the Jewish ones.
It depends. Yeah, I mean, if you find like the people that are like paleocons, and yeah, they. I just read Buckley's book on anti-Semitism a couple weeks ago, and yeah, they do.
Well, that's the thing, because like I tweeted about this the other day, but I watched Philosophy Tube's video about anti-Semitism, and he literally proved horseshoe theory by accident in his video, because there's one point in the video where he jokingly said "Comrade Trump" when he was on his like anti-elite rants. But he's like, whoa, Comrade Trump. But like, okay, the right is the one thing the far right is correct about is that a small cabal of wealthy elite people control the world. It's just not the Jews.
Yeah, it's Irish. It's a group of academic progressives with too much time on their hands. The Irish.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. No. I saw a funny a meme go around where it listed the CEOs of wealthy banks. Only one of them was Jewish, one of them was Greek, and all the rest were Irish Catholic.
Well, if you anyone who's like all right though will point to the one Jew and be like, "See, I found him. He's right there."
When in reality, it's we got to get rid of these Irish Catholics, dude. Dude, they have way too much power.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like in America, it pays. I don't want to agree with the left too much, but if you look at the ruling elite, almost all of them are like wasps. So
they're all wasps.
Yeah, so it's not like there's some. Yeah, it's not like it's the Jews or the Asians. Even though
they're all either wasps or Irish Catholics.
Although I do want to say there is still a huge anti-Semitic element on the far left too. I mean, Jewish privilege was trending 2 days ago.
Well, Jewish privilege was actually a trend about how like Jews, stories about how Jews faced anti-Semitism. That was mostly what it was used for.
It was being co-opted really badly though.
Oh, it was? Oh, yeah. Okay.
I mean, like I said, I'll have to send you the screenshots I took on my burner account, but I called it out saying this is nasty, and I got like a dozen comments of people being like, "Oh man, Israel! Oh man, the Jews control everything."
The Jews control Israel. Wake up, sheeple! They don't tell you this in school.
Oh my gosh!
The Jews have a stranglehold over Israel. Wake up!
Did you know that people in Israel are Jewish?
Dude, it's a conspiracy, bro. They're after me. That's my favorite joke because the first half of the sentence scares the living shit out of people.
Oh man, I know so many paleocons in real life, and you get them a little tipsy. And
I don't want to keep it that way. I know a Nazi though.
I know a couple people that skew that way, and I keep them around just because I know they're gonna get worse if I don't stay their friend. Because then the only people they're gonna talk to are their paleocon/Nazis. So I'm like, I'll be your sensible friend that's kind of dragging you the other way.
Yeah. So I did theater with this Nazi. And me and my friends were like, all right, let's just fuck with him. So we convinced him I was a gay Jew. And it worked for a year. And then, like, my friend spilled the beans, and he's like, wait. He was actually proud of us because he's very good at seeing through people's bullshit.
Oh, man.
So he was actually more proud than he was angry.
I mean, I went over to my paleocon friend's house a couple years ago.
You should have said that your friend is lying.
Well, no, because the thing is, no, when I told people that, it was actually my birthday gift because they finally convinced him. That, like, on my birthday, they called me and said, all right, Al, we did it. I was like, oh, fuck, that was quick. No, but the thing was, what was really, one of the stupidest part was, like, some of my friends were like, oh, you have to act gay now. I was like, no, I don't. Because if I like deliberately tried to act more gay, it's like that's gonna blow it. You just act like a normal person, but like if the subject comes up, obviously you gotta role play in more ways than one.
My only experience meeting someone who's like an actual Nazi, he came over to my friend's house who was a paleocon, and I managed to convince my paleocon friend to let us watch Dolomite together, and the alt-writer was not happy about it.
What's Dolomite?
It's a movie about blaxploitation movies in the 70s.
Black what?
Like you ever heard of blaxploitation, the genre?
What the fuck is that?
It's like low budget movies from the 1970s starring black actors.
Is it like the Harlem Renaissance? Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it lots of like schlocky like detective movies and cop movies where you have like.
Yeah, because there was a movement in the Harlem Renaissance.
By
people like Langston Hughes who like had small budget plays and shit.
Yeah, and I showed that to them, and my Palocon friend was enjoying it, and his alt-right friend was just sitting over there complaining the whole time about how much he hates the idea
people.
of...
Why are they humanizing these scoundrels?
Yeah, worse than that, but you can probably figure out what he was complaining about.
Oh, was he dropping the N-bomb?
I'm sure he did. I mean, I just remember him complaining about... What's the word of when people of multiple races intermarry? I forget what it's called, but
miscegenation.
Yeah, he was just sitting there like, oh man, these people are miscegenating.
King.
This is very amusing to me. I was enjoying watching him do that. I'm like,
I think
you did that on purpose, right?
A little bit.
My second. I think now miscegenation is my second favorite word after defenestration, which is the act of throwing people out of windows.
Oh my! I didn't know there was a technical term for that.
Yep. Oh yeah, there is. Ever heard of the defenestration of Prague?
No.
Yeah, that's the thing that started the Holy Year's War. Oh wait, sorry, the second defenestration of Prague. They already did that once before. No, basically they took an Austrian noble. So like an Austrian noble talked to like some Protestant Czech leaders, and instead of talking, they threw him out the window into a pile of horse shit.
Oh my! Did he live?
Yeah, he lived. He landed on something soft. Disgusting, but soft.
I mean, okay, I don't know if there's any like mass to poo though. Like I could see someone like falling into it and like hitting the ground hard. You know what I mean?
I think it was because they like shoveled and piled it up or whatever.
I think this was a large pile.
Okay, what is the buoyancy of poo? We need to look at the science into this.
Do you really want me to have this on my search history?
If it wasn't clear by the fact that I just said the phrase "the buoyancy of poo," I don't want to know the buoyancy of poo. So wait. So first, was that the first or second defenestration? What was the other one?
Second.
Okay. I mean, what kind of city has a regular tradition of throwing people out of windows other than like
fucking Prague, apparently?
I was gonna say the defenestration of the Middle East, but that's a whole different thing.
Oh, they do that, but only to gay people.
Only to wouldn't they want to do it to other people they consider heretics, or would they?
I thought they only threw gay people off the roofs. I thought that was reserved for them.
Well, I would guess they probably do it to other people they don't like too. Like
we could throw little gay people off roofs as a treat.
I'm sure the Christians and the Jews get it too. Like unless they have something special for them, like, oh, we don't have time to give you the special torture, so we're just gonna give you the floor to ceiling treatment real quick, and it'll be done. We got like 50 more Jews to take care of today, so you can imagine it being a bureaucracy.
The bureaucratic defenestration of gays.
But just to affirm the YouTube censors, we do not approve of any of this, just so you know. But like, this is the kind of edgy stuff you don't see on YouTube anymore. We're delivering that stuff that's did Alkazei just mute himself or us?
He muted himself.
Oh dang! Now we're stuck with us. So where were we on the topic of populism?
Oh, how stupid it is! I mean, for me, I don't like populism, but that's because I don't trust the average person to make a good decision.
How far would you take that, though? Because I mean, I know there's a lot of people nowadays who are making the like anti-democracy arguments. Like, how far would you take that?
Only landowners should vote.
Okay. I mean,
I believe in
landowners. Normally, landowners are very good at maintaining their own wealth, and therefore have a much longer-term outlook on things than the short-term outlook of non-landowners. So that's why I trust them more.
I have a friend who thinks we need to basically bring back some form of Roman citizenship and put some qualifiers behind it, but that
service guarantee citizenship, Robert Heinlein style.
That would never fly. I mean, everyone's gonna be like fascists. I mean, there's no way you could get like a
fascist whatsoever.
I know the original book's not fascist, but that's what everyone says because they've only seen the movie.
Even then, the movie's not fascist either.
I mean, Neil Patrick Harris is literally wearing a Nazi costume, dude.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. That's also what the U.S. military looked like at the time.
In the 90s? I don't think it would have looked like...
In, like, the 40s. And, yeah, our dress uniforms still somewhat do look like that, just a different color.
I mean, I think when he made the movie, he was doing that kind of to make a point, not necessarily... I mean, I get what you're saying, is that style might have been contemporary, but the movie came out...
ever anti-fascist film.
The movie came out in the 90s, dude.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, everyone who ever talks about that movie talks about it as like an anti-fascist movie, like how it's about like, oh, this is literally just a propaganda movie within the universe of this movie. So, I mean, in any case,
then, it's a bad propaganda movie because it shows defeat.
I mean, not really, because they beat the bug in the end. It's just the war doesn't end.
I've never seen Starship Troopers, so I'm just gonna zone out for a sec.
You should, if you like.
Well, when I mean defeat, it shows that people are actually like being killed, and they almost do lose several battles. So
I mean, that's kind of part and parcel with any propaganda film. You got to make the bad guys look formidable. I mean, you do that in John Wayne movies too. It's not like
the U.S. never actually did that, or any of the Allies. They made their enemies look weak.
I guess. I mean, I go back and I've seen a lot of older like John Wayne or John Ford movies, and there's plenty of those where they portray the Japanese and the Germans as formidable. So it's not like it's. I mean, obviously, Starship Troopers is probably making it a little more
government propaganda, which is what it's based on, not Hollywood propaganda, which is different.
Okay, I see what your point, but in either case, I'd still say that Starship Troopers, the movie, is intended to be in-universe propaganda, just because of how it portrays everything. It's so like, especially in the first part of the movie where everything's like maudlin, Happy Days nonsense, and then it just becomes so bleak. I mean, the main character
I do my part.
The main character is a guy named Rico, and he's supposed to be from Brazil, and he's like the waspiest actor in the world. So it's like it's like they're making a joke about whitewashing in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But
I heard that Rico in the movie is from Vancouver, but in the book he's from Rio de Janeiro.
Okay. I mean, well, yeah, because I thought it's Rio in the movie. But, yeah, it wouldn't make sense that it would be different in the book. Because I know the book is unironic. Like, the movie is, like, making fun of the book to extremely, so. I mean, Sargon did a good stream about the Starship Troopers book.
Pretty much...
I'm sorry, you can go on.
Oh, the book is pretty much just explaining a political system, but
yeah, and it's a sincere
war novel.
Yeah, it's a sincere depiction of a world where everything is run by veterans, and there's interesting stuff to it, but it's one of those things that would never fly because it's been so thoroughly propagandized by the movie and by culture. Like nowadays, any level of like voting restrictions is considered like either fascist or anti-democratic to some degree, and I mean, to whatever degree the people making those accusations think that it benefits them, of course, but you're just never going to be able. It might be interesting to try to push some sort of like modified Roman citizenship or landowning requirements for voting, but you would never get it done nowadays. At least not while the progressive left has their chance, because they see it as like,
saw that Pete Buttigieg had that as part of his platform.
Well, he didn't want it to make it part of his citizenship. He just wanted it to be like a thing you did.
Well, he wanted it to go and be, in order to go and vote, you would have to go and serve.
Buttigieg
That's what he wanted to do.
Wasn't it?
Not citizenship in general, but apparently it was on his website.
I could see him wanting that at one point, but I just don't see a mainstream Democrat getting that position and getting it passed.
No, he just wanted it to be like it's weird. Like he wanted to like encourage it more, be like more of a rite of passage, but something you didn't have to do. I know it's hard to explain.
Well, I mean, you don't have to vote. In fact, I don't really see much merit in voting myself.
Well,
that's because I'm from Illinois, not a progressive.
I like my right to vote.
I mean, I came very close to ironically voting for Kanye since I'm in Illinois. So I'm like, it's not going to be valuable anyway. I'm just going to vote for anything. So.
I'm just not even going to bother because, well, I can think of many other better things that I can do with 2 hours of time.
Well, you could get rid of the Electoral College.
Boo!
Boo! I don't want to give New York even more power.
I'm not giving more power to New York.
I would, because they have a lot of people.
Yeah, but not fucking everybody lives in New York.
I mean, population-wise, if you lay it out, the major population centers have populations that are slightly edge out, like the surrounding suburbs and the rural areas, because they're so spread out. So, I mean, you would get more overpowering control from the major cities just because of how massive they are and how much cultural groupthink there is to being someone who lives in a major city. Like I know I've gone, and you obviously you live in Chicago, and I've lived near Chicago, and I've know people from Chicago, and almost all of them either think the same or they don't say anything out loud. So there's just there is kind of an overwhelming error.
Well, I think it would encourage voters just overall, like, because like people like Republicans in like in New York State might be disencouraged to vote because New York's such a heavy Democrat state, and the same thing with like Republicans in like Wyoming or something. Because that way they'll feel like they'll have more of an impact. You'll just get more voters overall, I think.
Maybe, but as it stands, I don't see how you wouldn't ultimately get a situation where regional interests don't start voting other regional interests out. I mean,
because the thing is, it's like 40% of Massachusetts votes for the GOP, right? So, but you'll probably get more of those GOP people voting in like blue states.
No,
because they'll feel newly empowered.
Definitely not even try.
Huh?
They'd not even try at all.
The consensus around the electoral college debate is, generally speaking, that if you got rid of it, it would, to some degree, give the Democrats a minor boost. And obviously, they kind of cite the last couple of elections where there was a minor dip in the electoral college where Bush and Trump did not win the popular vote. So there's some sense that it would help the Democrats. I don't know if that would activate any additional Republicans. But
I think it.
I just in any case I don't support changing electoral college because for essentially the Chesterton's fence argument. I don't like ripping out old institutions just because they're momentarily causing problems. I mean, everything that we're having within the last two elections where we got a situation where the Republican Party took a bonus from it, that's a momentary fluke. It could change at any day, especially if Texas goes blue within the next 50 years. And if we wind up in a situation where like Texas became a blue state and then Michigan and all those other states reverted to blue and Republicans got completely voted out, I would consider it incredibly disingenuous if the Republicans that argue now that the Electoral College is good turned around and then said, it's bad for us, we aren't going to get elected again for 20 or 40 years, we should get rid of it. It's an argument from convenience as opposed to an argument of trying to address why the elections are going the way they are.
Well, for one, I just don't like the fucking idea of it. I think it's just sort of retarded. Because, like, for one, the founding fathers weren't right about everything, so I'm not really you gotta automatically accept just because the founding fathers thought.
Well,
X.
I could agree to that, but I would, regardless of what the legitimacy of the fathers, I think it comes down to their arguments, and you gotta, and understanding why they created the Electoral College is more important than saying it came from them. And they talk about it in the Federalist Papers.
I just don't give a shit.
You should, because you're the one who wants it gone.
Well, because, okay, for one, there was a lot of, for one, the main people who wanted the Electoral College were Southerners. Because, like, the 3/5 compromise was just passed, so they were starting to count slaves for representation in Congress or whatever. But if you look at the voting population, basically just white property-owning males above the age of 21, all of those voting blocks are roughly the same. They all had the same rough amount. So the South was like, oh shit, if we just let the popular vote go, the Northerners will just dominate us. So that's why they wanted, for one, that's why a lot of them wanted the Electoral College and the 3/5 compromise.
Well, I don't disagree that
that's a very good reason to have the Electoral College, so that then part of the country doesn't dominate everywhere else.
I mean, there's a point.
Dude, I don't care what slave owners think. Fuck them, they're gay.
There's a point to be said about the fact that the Southerners pushed for a lot of these policies, but I don't find that to be useful one way or the other, because that's the argument the Democrats constantly make. Like, oh, the federalism was created to benefit the South, or X, Y, and Z. The police were made by the South to fight to be slave patrols, and the fact that it was created to balance the interests of the North and the South was baked into the design, but I don't think that that's on its own, even in the absence of slavery, I don't think that makes it illegitimate. For the same reason I don't think it makes federalism illegitimate. We're balancing the interests of 50 separate states and putting them into how we interact as an interstate nation that has 50 separate local governments that have completely different economic interests. I mean, we don't want to end up in a situation where California can vote itself all of Utah's water. There has to be kind of a balance between this, and that's why you have such a lopsided system.
I don't even think the Electoral College does that properly.
There's an argument to be made. I mean, but if either trying to fix it or replace it with the popular vote, I don't see how that's ultimately.
All right, when was the last time a Republican fucking campaigned in North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming?
Did Trump? I would imagine he probably did. But...
Trump actually did.
I don't think so.
I can imagine he probably did some speech there. I mean, I'm sure...
He probably did, like, one. Okay, but let's compare it to states like, Florida, North Carolina, or other swing states like Ohio, right? Mm-hmm. Swing states get more pandering, or whatever it's called.
Well, it's...
And why would that not happen without the Electoral College?
The nature of swing states is transitory, though, because they're constantly changing. I mean, with the last couple elections since Reagan, it's been Ohio and Florida, but now it's rapidly turning into northern states, and Texas is probably going to become a swing state, and it's probably likely that Ohio and Florida are probably going to become more
Holy shit, this storm outside my house is getting fucking ugly. Anyways.
It's probably going to send it up to us soon.
Oh, yeah. Here, I'll send it your way. I'll use my magic Jew powers.
Magic gay Jew powers.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Magic gay Jew powers.
Oh, my gosh. But, yeah.
Real gay Jew powers.
No, because the thing is, and I just don't like the idea that, like... I just don't like the idea of, like, some fucking backroom motherfuckers voting on my behalf.
I mean...
Because, for one, I just like the idea that one vote equals one vote for everybody.
I mean, that's the same argument you're hearing when people are saying the Senate is unfair right now. I mean, representation isn't gonna correlate to exactly equal representation across the board on a national level.
I actually want to change this. I actually want to keep the Senate, but I want to institute some form of proportional representation.
Well, the Senate should go back to its original purpose. We should stop having our people vote on senators, and because originally the senators were appointed by the state governments, and that served a reason of making them essentially the cooler half, the long-term, the alternative to the House of Representatives, which is supposed to be the people's house. It's where all the rowdy, crazy people that carry guns and scream and swear and drink at each other were supposed to go, and then the Senate was supposed to be the other half of that, which was the essentially the intellectual elite house where the Senate, where the states would pick qualified individuals to represent them, and that's why Senate terms are so long. It's not the class where people fight and where people are supposed to get scrappy and do stuff like that. It's supposed to be the cooler heads prevail house, and it doesn't really do that anymore. Now it's just the place where people go when they want to have long Senate careers, and it doesn't really serve a function as an individual house anymore.
Asylum instead.
What was that?
Now it's the insane asylum for people who think that government matters.
Pretty much. It doesn't really serve a purpose having that house be more democratic, but like I said, nowadays you're never going to be able to get any sort of actual reforms that might get the government to function anything like its original intent.
For one, I want to institute like either ranked choice voting or proportional representation, because I just think the way we do districting is very flawed.
Well, obviously everyone freaking gerrymanders their districts. That's
yeah. For one, I think ranked choice voting would try to cut back on gerrymandering. Either that, or we just get rid of districts, and like the states have to do proportional representation for their districts or whatever.
I mean, all the states can choose how they want to divvy up their electoral votes how they want. I mean, I think Illinois.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I think like, so you get like, so Missouri has like what, 9 districts, I think. So whatever. So you get to send 9 representatives to the House. So you either rank choice vote, which is for like each district. So you just vote for like the number 1 for you, the guy you like the most, and 5 for the ones you like the least, or depending how many people are running. Or you do proportional representation, which is you just vote for the party you want.
So essentially a parliamentary system, like being
I actually prefer parliamentary systems to the one we have now.
It's interesting. It would give us less choice individually, but I'm not necessarily pro or against it. I would just
for one, because since we have political parties, I don't really think that matters at this point.
Honestly, political parties are so antithetical to the founding. If we want to get rid of anything, we should get rid of official parties, because those just freaking gum up the works and turn everything into a power game.
Well, even so, you're still gonna have de facto parties.
Yeah, I mean that was. I had to look at the.
Because the thing is, everybody does that stupid quote with George Washington, but what George Washington failed to see is that political parties are just a natural consequence of democracy.
I mean, that's the thing about liberal democracies, is that they decay almost immediately. And there was a Nietzsche quote I found recently that said something along the lines of, liberal institutions stop being liberal institutions the moment they're established. And I think that was the case with the United States, is that the moment it came into the world, it's only a matter of time before it stops functioning the way it's supposed to. And you have to kind of have a constant sense of renewal and a constant sense of understanding what the original point of the system was.
Well, for one, I think they're high ideals of these people who didn't belong to political parties and really represented their like individual district. For one, I think that was a flawed premise from the outset. And so what I think the way you should craft a liberal democracy is to craft your system around the idea that you're going to have political parties. If you just accept that that's going to be a thing, then you can start to chip away at the flaws of having a party system by building.
Guess, but if nothing else, I wish we could find a way to get rid of the 2-party system we have, because that's just
ranked choice voting. Because or a combination of both, maybe. Because
just go and do presidential elections how they were originally done, because then you don't even have primaries for parties.
Well, the primaries, the parties still don't have to do primaries. They're not mandated by law. They chose to do
I know, but the way that we do it now pretty much means the primaries are going to happen.
Yeah.
Because you don't vote for president and vice president anymore.
Yeah. Well, my thing is like, I just think we have to restructure our legislative system around the idea that we're just going to have political parties no matter what the hell we do, de jure or de facto. So if you just go with that from the outset and try to reform it for the modern day, instead of just trying to rekindle what the founding fathers wanted, I think you're probably going to have a better system.
I'm open to the idea of changing it to ranking system. That
it's like everybody's like, oh man, partisanship is bad. It's like, okay, how about you just build your system around the idea partisanship is going to happen? I just think that's a much better way to for one, I think it's much easier than to try to change human nature and human behavior.
Yeah. I'm cynical enough that I agree with that. I don't want to be trying to push these institutions into existence. You are fighting humans' tribal nature to a degree.
Yeah.
It's I mean, obviously that's part of the problem, but
yeah, that's how I see the world. I'm like a cynical optimist. I'm like, okay, here's how the world really is, but how can we build a system around our stupid human inhibitions?
I mean, I'm enough of an originalist just to think that there's something that the original vision captured that's rare.
I mean, don't get me wrong. They had a good foundation.
Yeah, there's something about that vision that's rare in the human experience, and it created something that worked even on its own steam for a very long time. And at the moment, I don't think we're running a system that's anywhere near the way it's supposed to run. Obviously,
that's why I say, like, for one, the world changes, and so if the world changed, we have to change how we operate. We can't just keep using the same framework. Well, we can use the same framework, but we can't start using the same system that was constructed in the 1700s.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't trust people nowadays to figure out a way to reform it from the ground up. Because, like, if we had like a constitutional convention right now, what would end up happening is that we'd get like a faction of like communist tankies and a faction of paleocons on the opposite side of the floor asking for like completely different kinds of constitutions, and there would be you wouldn't be able to come up with something that works on a national level. You just end up balkanizing.
Well, because the thing is, like, for one, I do like a lot of the ideas the founders had for the Constitution. I like checks and balances. I like a Supreme Court. I like the presidential system. I want to combine the parliamentary and presidential systems, because my main criticism of the parliamentary system is that the executive is also in the legislative branch, and I just don't like that idea.
Yeah, that's gross.
I think they should be separate.
Yeah, I mean,
which is why I actually really like the German system, ironically.
Well, there you go.
Considering how much I shit on the Germans, they got one thing right.
My people are complex people, but yeah.
They're my people too, but I hate them.
I mean, I just don't see any way you could get a modern system going where it doesn't ultimately get compromised by the fact that people are just kind of freaking crazy nowadays. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
I don't trust if the Democratic Party gets into power and they just go like, yeah, we're going to reform the system so that it makes it more democratic, being like, I know exactly what they mean when they say that. They're basically just saying like, oh, we're going to game the system so that we can push through all the reforms we want indefinitely without any opposition. And like, I don't trust either the Republican Party or the Democratic Party to handle any sort of major reform at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. But the thing is, well, for one, you're acting like it's a death sentence if like we get rid of the Electoral College. I think the Republicans can easily appeal to people in cities and minorities.
I think from a practical standpoint, it would be a generational setback. It would essentially mean that for a good decade or two, there would be a lot of Democratic wins just because of the way it's currently facilitated. I don't think that would stay the thing going forward. I think obviously things would shift because you would get a massive coalition that built up against it that doesn't like their progressive reforms. I just think that in this day and time and climate, I think that with the progressive left being what it is, I don't want them to be in control.
My thing is just like, well, I think the Republicans could easily appeal to minorities and people in urban areas if they weren't so stupid.
Oh yeah.
Because the Canadian Conservatives, they have a lot of minority support. So do the Tories. It's like the Republicans can do it. It's just they're so retarded. Yeah. I don't think it's because they're racist. I think it's because they're incompetent.
Well, there's a very good documentary I'd recommend called "Fear of the Black Republican."
I do think Trump's racist. So I do think.
Well, yeah, there are a couple who are racist. There are a couple who are like insanely openly racist, but. I mean, it really it's more so on like the fringe ends of the populist side. I think that if you're like a neocon or you're like a establishment type, you're probably not that. You're more of like it's like the documentary I was just talking about, Fear of the Black Republican. it was made by some guy who lived in Trenton, New Jersey, who was a Republican, and he went to his local Republican party thing and said, I live in a black neighborhood. There's no campaigning attempts at all to get any people into this neighborhood. And he asked them, why is that? And they said, well, we don't want to activate black voters. We don't want to make them know that we're coming into their territory because they're probably going to vote Democrat. So we just want to make sure that as many of them don't go out and vote as possible. And he's like, that's stupid. Give me a whole bunch of pamphlets. I'm going to go campaign myself. And he essentially makes the point that in the long run, both parties are kind of, they take it for granted that black voters just are Democrats, as opposed to trying.
Very socially conservative, so you could easily get so much more.
There's nothing really other than a serious attempt to actually try to engage with issues in the black community. There's not that much keeping Republicans from jumping into it, other than this vague perception within the culture that Republicans are the anti-black party. And that's only held in a small part of the population. I think if you got enough people going into black communities and talking to them okay, what are your issues? What do you want to do? How can we compromise, make something that you'd like? And I think if they created a Republican position that actually addressed issues in the black community, that you could do it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I like the Lincoln Project, because I actually want to do that shit. Because the thing is, if Trump wasn't in control of the party, I'd probably still be a Republican right now. Full disclosure.
I figured you were kind of a centrist-y former Republican, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
I do give up those vibes.
I personally would never identify as a Republican post Goldwater, so.
Well, he's one of those.
You want to go back to anarcho-feudalism or some shit. You're weird.
Theocracy now, please.
Because the thing is, it's dude. I mean, I would do it. Whatever. Because the thing, I think the gesture would be appreciated for one.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no effort in the Republican Party to try because they take it for granted.
For one, they have a decent group of Latinos. I think they could easily expand their support amongst Latinos.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how they would want to approach it, because I know that the wall issue is a huge thing for the right. So
for one, they should stop being so hostile to immigration, I think.
I mean, outside of the paleocons, do you think there's a major anti-legal immigration push on the middle right, or
no? Not really.
I mean, that's really
if you get the populace out of the party, and then you go back to the H.W. Bush position on immigration, and you just emphasize if you emphasize what he thought about immigration.
I mean, I think
he'll increase support amongst Latinos. And if you put more people like Marco Rubio, who's a Catholic Cuban, on pedestals and shit, I think you can easily gain more support, because now the Republicans are starting to lose Cubans, which is one of the few supporters minority support they have, but they still have the Venezuelans at least.
Well, yeah, because they're the only ones calling it out.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's just a matter of strategy, but it would be nice if we could actually do that, because you listen to a lot of the paleocon types. They're so doomer about the issue of race.
Because the thing is, it's demographics on testing. You can easily it's. I think you could also appeal to Indians.
Yeah, I mean, especially very statistically high performative groups in the United States. You could probably.
Muslims used to vote Republican too. They used to be a solid Republican base until 9/11.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Is so many. When you listen to people on college campuses, the spoiled, a lot of them sound like spoiled kids. They're clearly people who are they grew up in that post.
Spoiled kids. Why else aren't they on college campuses?
Oh, also, yeah. I have to go in a bit, so.
Oh yeah, we can finish up, but.
Yeah, okay, because I have to deliver food to my.
Sure.
He's very old.
I was just saying a lot of the the kids you see on these college campuses who are telling their stories. There's a I don't know if you've seen the Lauren Chen video where she's giving a college speech, and all these kids come up to her and they're crying about I can't believe this Asian woman is a white supremacist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's they're just telling their life story and breaking down on camera.
But I don't.
Yeah, I don't
like Lauren.
Have they ever been to Japan? It is more white supremacist than the South.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I don't think Lauren Chen is alt-right, but I don't like her still.
I like her, but I think she's definitely she gets accused of being like an alt-righter constantly.
She's too socially conservative.
Why
for me, I think.
Chinese lady not like black man?
Why no Chinese lady like man? Why don't the Ching Chongs like him?
Oh my gosh! Thank friggin' name, but yeah, I mean, a lot of these kids like there's a lot of these like the most liberal. Like this intersectional coalition, they're like second and third generation kids who grew up after 9/11 who are all in it for the social policies more than anything else. Like, yeah, I think if you get past them and you start getting into like the normies who aren't like radicalized and taught from the age that, remember children, America hates you. Like if you get past those types, like you probably could make some significant inroads, but obviously that perception's out there, and I think that's the perception like the alt-righters see constantly, is they just see that constantly, and it's like, oh no, all of them believe this, all of them.
If the Republicans increase African immigration, dude, they could easily just import more bases of support.
What do you think, real quick, what do you think about assimilation as a concept?
Dude, demographic replacement but for far leftists by immigrating more black people.
My gosh, we can make the left into an anti-immigration party.
Yes! This is
a base version of Sweden.
Dude, this is how we need to do what Sweden did, but for like increase like more conservative.
This
is the demographic replacement I want to see, quite frankly.
I mean, I want us to import all of Hong Kong, honestly.
I want us to import all of Nigeria, because they're all very conservative. They'll all vote Republican.
Oh yeah, they're that would be.
Don't Nigerians also like burn Christians in the street though?
The Muslim ones do, I think.
Which is
like
South
Nigeria is Christian, North Nigeria is Muslim.
We want to bring the entire population of Nigeria to America, but only the Christian ones. Only the ones who agree with us.
All right, fine. You know what? I'm gonna leave. See you.
Thank you for coming on, Alkazei. It was fun.
You too. I want to do this again.
Oh sure, this would be great.
Yeah.
Bye.
Oh, this is great. Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to say, or do you want to?
Two idiots. Well, what else do you want to talk about?
I mean, Alkazei kind of controls the room when he's in, so I didn't know if you had anything else you wanted to talk about.
That's so true.
Well,
I could announce something that I'm helping with working on for some people who I know on Twitter.
Sure, what's up?
So in this October, we're trying to get together a group to basically have a large camping retreat in either Kentucky or West Virginia. So,
okay.
Basically, think a libertarian agorist version of Boy Scouts. Yeah.
Tell your libertarian stories. How is this? What did the state? Where did
roast the hell out of people?
Where on the Goyacan did the state touch you?
I already know that if we're roasting some old guy, then just gonna say, "Why do we make fun of you? Because you're old and washed up."
Because you have multiple chins. Cause you're old.
No, he's not the Japanese emperor from Hearts of Iron.
I was quoting SpongeBob. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh.
I'm a millennial. I'm contractually obligated to reference SpongeBob at least once an hour.
Well, apparently SpongeBob is now gay, so...
Oh no, but I'm a libertarian though, so I can live with it. So what? Tell me about... so what else is going on with this camp idea?
Well, currently we're trying to go and find some land, but we're running into some problems, since all of the places that we've tried to go into debt so far are either owned by Southern Baptists now, or just not available.
Are the Southern Baptists just not letting you in? Or are we of a certain type of person we like to give our land to? Libertarians are not them, so...
Basically, they would find a reason to kick us out because we're libertarians.
Libertarians rise up, our most oppressed minority.
Gamers rise up?
Yeah, no, I said libertarians, but yeah, that too. Did you see that map?
Really?
Did you see that map? It might have been shared in the group at some point of like the political it was the four quarters map of like the percentages of people who voted in the election last time, and like it was like all spread out, but when you look at the libertarian corner, it was like a third as populated as the rest of the map. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll have to find it and send that to you, but...
Well, that's because the libertarians go with Heinlein on what voting is, and voting is violence, so we just don't vote.
Yeah, the libertarian revolution is not coming effectively. It's
that's also because the Libertarian Party is just a whole bunch of socialists.
Well, yeah, like what? Joe Jorgensen, the Black Lives Matter
Joe
supporter,
Jorgensen telling us to be anti-racist without telling us what the hell that is.
Well, it's like what I shared. It's like what I shared earlier. It's like it's not just enough to be anti-homophobic. You have to be gay. You have to be pro. You have
to embrace the gay.
And then you had what's his name in the last Gary Johnson, who somehow was a libertarian who supports carbon taxes, because libertarians are famous for their love of taxes, and large government anti-climate change proposals. Those are two things that'll get their libertarian party going.
I think I honestly should go and find Joe Jorgensen's tweet and then just quote tweet it on Twitter saying, in response to this, I'm now officially identifying as a black trans woman. I'll now go in blackface everywhere.
I mean, did you hear about that guy who was trolling Southern California when he was told, you have to be wearing a mask in public at all times, and so he just put on a KKK hood? He's like, oh, I'm wearing a mask. You didn't say what kind of mask, but... I mean...
You should have worn an N95 under it, so then they can't do a damn thing.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I would never do that myself, but I respect that troll game. That's...
Well, yeah, I wouldn't do that myself either, because I don't want to be, like, lynched in Brownsville.
I mean, Alkazei would probably do it, but he's Alkazei, so...
Because he probably owns one at this point.
It's the only Klan supporter in the Biden rally, but...
Other than Biden himself.
Oh my gosh, but
that's wah.
Did I send the photo of Aang from the Avatar, like removing but with the subtitle is like Joe Biden removing a black person's melanin when he discovers he didn't vote for him?
Yeah. There was also the yeah, one of my friends on Discord sent me the other day a picture of some cat humping another, and it's a Joe Biden cat on it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh god, Joe Biden.
What is even happening in this election?
I love it, especially when Kanye West has already left the race after like 2 weeks.
Yeah, that happened today. Like, why is he gone after a week? What the heck was he trying...
There's like some sort of Comedy Central special.
It's like an Eric Andre sketch. It's just, I'm running for president, literally. And now I have decided I'm no longer running for president. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate the money you've already sent in. Goodbye.
Wife? God.
Like if we had gotten to like you said, we live in Illinois. Our vote doesn't matter, but. Like, if we'd gotten to election time, I was seriously considering putting Kanye's vote down just so I could keep my neocon credentials going. But it's like I don't
honestly just mess with him and vote for Hitler.
Oh my gosh!
Just write down Hitler.
In the last election, I wrote in Evan McMullen just because I didn't want to vote for either one of them. I'm like, I'll just write him in. It just. But
one of my friends wrote in Cthulhu because he wanted to vote for the greatest of evils.
That's fair. I mean, at least you're honest, but...
Yeah.
How many people... Didn't, like, a surprising number of people write in Harambe last election?
Yeah, I think Harambe was, like, 10th nationwide.
That sounds about right. I mean... There's a certain percent of Americans who just don't seem to exist on any level of reality. I mean, they'll just vote for they'll just do anything they want. And I kind of respect it, but...
Well, I mean, let's be honest. The president really doesn't matter much, especially if you keep on sending him crap congressmen.
Well, the problem is the presidency has just turned into basically a new form of kingship. Like, as executive privilege seems to cover everything nowadays. So it would be less threatening if the president couldn't just write anything he wanted with the flick of a pen. If you were just an approver, like a administrative approval, and Congress actually still functioned like it's supposed to, then none of this would matter. It wouldn't matter if Trump's in office. It wouldn't matter if Biden's in office. It would be an inconvenience. It would just be a symbol of where the parties are. But the president has a lot of power nowadays. There's more than there should be.
Yeah, ironically enough, because of both presidents from Illinois. We're doing a terrible job with making politicians.
Oh my god. Well, wait, who was the other one? It was Obama and
Lincoln.
Oh, I mean, I know that there's a concise libertarian argument that Lincoln was not the best, but
Well, I mean, Lincoln is the one who heavily expanded executive authority during the Civil War.
I mean...
And even though it's somewhat well-founded, he also never really made a way for it to shrink again.
That's kind of the Mike Savage argument, though. I mean, he died before he could do anything to shrink it. It would have fallen on his vice president and the subsequent presidents to shrink the power down.
True.
I have no problem. Maybe it's just
he should have chosen a better vice president.
Maybe it's just my Warhawk tendencies inside me, but my old childhood Warhawk tendencies. But I don't mind the war socialism. So long as there's an actual war going on. Like if we need to do a little bit of it just to get through the war, we did it for both world wars. We did it for the Civil War. Whatever. I don't want obviously something like the War on Terror is scummy because you're not fighting an enemy. You're fighting a concept. So that was obviously crossing more than a few lines. But as long as there's like an actual like we need all of the steel in the United States to go in one place because we have no choice. Okay, whatever. You can do it for 5 years, but to go full Woodrow Wilson and be like, hey, wasn't the war socialism great? Why don't we keep doing it even after the war? That's when you have problems.
Yeah.
I mean,
the issue with war socialism, though, is that it incentivizes doing more wars to continue the war socialism.
Yeah, I mean, that's the military-industrial complex problem, is it becomes a new lobbyist, and suddenly, now we have the incentive to do it, and yeah, obviously, I get that.
Yeah.
I think it was like Julie Borowski pointed out on Twitter the other day, like, man, it's weird that Trump is the first president in like a generation that hasn't started a war. But it's like, well, I'll give him that. I don't like Trump that much, but hooray, no new wars.
At least it's a nice breather.
Well, yeah. I mean, did they officially end the Afghanistan war at this, or because I know we radically cut down our presence, but.
The issue with that is that Trump has tried, but Congress isn't letting them actually do it.
It's one of I didn't know if we're still technically at war with them, but I'm sure we still have some presence there, but I don't know how much.
Yeah.
Anyway, is there anything else you want to cover before we kind of wrap up, or?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, we've almost been going for 2 hours, so.
Damn.
But yeah, I know you had some stuff you wanted to talk about separately, and we can kind of figure out a time to do that. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, and obviously same to Alkazei. But yeah, hopefully we can give you more time to talk next time.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, thank you so much. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too.
Tonight, I'm grateful. Tonight.